What's crap? Welcome to Under the Foreskin, a show dedicated to happenings of the SJU and Misfits Fantasy Football League. We are in our third season, 2012, and we look forward to a great year. We have 2 new participants this year, which is pretty exciting and brings the total to 14. The draft has been completed. Week 1 has been completed. Waiver Wire Wednesday has been completed, and we are on week 2. This will be a weekly show. We'll feature guests often, but this week I'll be flying solo. I'm Kyle, the head of football operations for the Potomac Pretenders and the radio voice of the SJU and Misfits Fantasy Football League. Let's kick it off with week 1 results. The Sausage Wallets took on the Buffalo Armadillos and sneaked by them 4 points, 100-96. Sausage Wallets, good games out of a couple of their regulars with no injuries. Everyone pretty much had their best team on the field. And the Sausage Wallets were excited to sneak it out by 4 points. The Poughkeepsie Pandas took on the Tallahassee Trouser Snakes in week 1. And the Trouser Snakes got the best of them, 114-82. Now, many would say the Trouser Snakes had a less than adequate draft and came out with a pretty ugly team, but they all had career days, and look out to the Trouser Snakes. They surprised everyone. I think the biggest surprise was their number 3 keeper, the Baltimore defense. They scored 21 points for him and sealed the victory. Next up, we had the Duluth Draft Dodgers. They took on a new team owned by Mike Vanis, the Chernobyl Tin Whiskers. The Tin Whiskers lost by 4 points, 95-91 in another tight game. The Duluth Draft Dodgers were led by, no surprise to me, Matt Ryan, 31 points this week, the highest scoring fantasy player, if I'm not mistaken. Other than that, they got good performance out of Ahmad Bradshaw, and everyone else was just kind of steady. The Chernobyl Tin Whiskers made a little bit of a boo-boo. They left Adrian Peterson on the bench, and in his stead, they inserted Toby Gerhart. That was quite a point swing. Toby scored 1, and Adrian scored, I believe, 20 points. Quite the point swing that would have made the difference for him, but you can't win them all. Next up, we had the Sioux City Smugglers. They took on the Waco Wrinkle Beast, another new team owned by head of football operations for the Wrinkle Beast, Joel Stackley. Stackley lost in his debut of the SJU Fantasy Football League, and he lost by a lot, 39 points to be exact, 109-70 to the reigning regular season champ, the Sioux City Smugglers. Smugglers ended up keeping Arian Foster this year, Marshawn Lynch, and Rob Gronkowski. Got decent performances out of all. Foster for 19, Gronkowski for 12, and Lynch for 9. Kind of a surprise pickup. Jay Cutler, starting QB for the Sioux City Smugglers, scored 19 points. Hell of a day. Wrinkle Beast, led by Drew Brees, got 21 points, but they got a lot of 3s and 4s and 1s and 5s, and just not enough to get it done in the SJU and Misfits Fantasy Football League. Next up, we had the Hollywood Hotties took on the Flint Tropics, formerly known as the Philly Dream Team. The Flint Tropics relocated this year to Flint, Michigan, and started off the new season in their new hometown with quite a score. 99 points for the Tropics. They took down the reigning playoff champions, the Hollywood Hotties, 99-71. Big game out of Tony Romo on Wednesday night against the Giants. Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald each pitched in. Darren Sproles and Ben Tate didn't have a lot to do with the effort, but solid enough to get him the W. The Hollywood Hotties, returning Tom Brady, Victor Cruz, and DeMarco Murray, had decent performances, but all in all, Michael Turner hung them out to dry and didn't get out of enough production out of guys like Dwayne Bowe with only 5 points. So he'll look to defend his title with an 0-1 start, which, not saying it's impossible, but got a lot of work to do. Up next, co-commissioner Alexander Odunchkin is his name. He took on the Bakersfield Border Collies, owned by Jason Johannes. It was a tight game, but the Border Collies snuck out by a whisker, 93-88, pardon me. Big game out of Rogers, go figure, that's a keeper for the Crapstone Prairie Dogs, 22 points. Jordy Nelson recently acquired in a trade for Darren Sproles, that was 8 points, and Matt Forte for 18 points. Decent scores out of the Prairie Dogs, but it wasn't enough to take on newcomer and steal of the draft. Robert Griffin III scored 24 points in his NFL debut. Andre Roberts, 12 points for the Arizona Cardinals. Not sure who threw him the ball, but it had to be one of those clowns down there. And steady Eddie keeper LaShawn McCoy chipped in with 12 points. Next up, my team, the Potomac Pretenders, took on the Gnawbone Butte Pirates, and they weren't favored going into the game. The projections said 101 to 81. While the Pretenders, you put them behind a rock like that, and they're going to come out swinging. 92 to 78. The Pretenders take down the Butte Pirates. Big days out of Fred Jackson, lost with an injury for the Butte Pirates, 1 point. And a lot of other just 7-8 point games. Couldn't get in the end zone for a lot of the Butte Pirates. The Pretenders, on the other hand, could do no wrong. Pierre Garcon finds the end zone. Jeremy Macklin finds the end zone. Maurice Jones-Drew has a decent game. Stafford, didn't have a great game, but turned around. And of course, pickup of the draft, Matt Bryant, 17 points for a $1 kicker. Not too shabby. On the waiver wire on Wednesday, not a lot going on. The Buffalo Armadillos did acquire someone by the name of Pita. He's a tight end for the Ravens. Looked good on Monday night, but $33 seems a little steep for timeshare tight end. But you know what, Jack? Maybe there's some method behind your madness. I'm just not sure. Coming up in week 2, we got some great games ahead of us. The Buffalo Armadillos will take on the Tallahassee Trouser Snakes. Projections say Armadillos by 6. I don't know. I just don't know. I like the Trouser Snakes in this one, which would put them to a surprising 2-0. I just think they're hot right now, and with newly acquired players Peyton Hillis and Deshaun Jackson, which were traded for Peyton Manning, I think he's got some good weeks out of Michael Vick left, and he's going to be just all right. The Gnawbone Butte Pirates will take on the Chernobyl Tin Whiskers. The Tin Whiskers, I'm sure, will have Adrian Peterson behind the helm. I don't think it's going to be enough. The Butte Pirates are favored 91 to 81, and I like the Butte Pirates in this one. The Duluth Draft Dodgers are taking on the Waco Wrinkle Beast, and I think the Duluth Draft Dodgers are going to start off 2-0. Basically, the Wrinkle Beasts are starting Mark Ingram. They're starting Mark Ingram. There's no way they're going 1-1. They're going to slip to 0-2, and the Dodgers will be 2-0 after this week. Sioux City Smugglers take on the Flint Tropics in and arguably 2 powerhouse teams. I like the Tropics in this one. I think they both have really, really good matchups, and it's tough to pick, but I really like the Flint Tropics this week to upset the Sioux City Smugglers that are favored by 11 points. Bakersfield Border Collies take on the Polish Sausage Wallets. I like the Border Collies. They're always a solid team. Didn't have the best draft, and I think Mr. Johannes would agree. But I'm going to go with the Sausage Wallets. They're favored by 4 points, so definitely a tight game. The defenses that the Sausage Wallets players play are Indiana, Miami, Minnesota, Jacksonville, and Arizona, just to name a few. I like those matchups, and I think they're going to have a decent week. The Crapstone Prairie Dogs take on the Hollywood Hotties. Hotties are favored 93 to 90. But I like the Crapstone Prairie Dogs in this one. I think they're going to get out to an early jump with 4 players playing on Thursday night, Green Bay versus Chicago. And I think the Hotties just aren't going to be able to catch up. The Pretenders, my team, the Potomac Pretenders, take on the Poughkeepsie Pandas. The Pandas are favored by a whopping 20 points, 109 to 89. I don't see the Pretenders coming out from behind the rock this week. We got tough matchups all the way down, and the Pandas have furnished a solid team. I think they're going to be one to contend with as the season goes on, unless Tyler Olson overthinks it. So that's what we got on the docket for Week 2. We'll revisit those scores next week in the next Under the Foreskin. Until that time, be sure to check us out on Twitter at SJU Misfits, where you'll hear about the best moves, the dumbest moves, stats, highlights, scores, standings, everything you want to know about the SJU and Misfits Fantasy Football League.